Welcome to Podtendo's Legend of Zelda Retrospective. We're going to go in-depth into characters, game design, and thematical elements for the Legend of Zelda games for the Nintendo 64. Enjoy. Hey guys, welcome to Podtendo's Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time Retrospective. We're going to dive into the thematical elements, gameplay / game design, and the characters that have been captivating gamers since 1998, and really take our time to enjoy this game that has become a cultural phenomenon. In our second episode, we looked at the development details, or reviewed the 3D game design of the first 3 Child Link dungeons, discussed the Curse of the Skulltula House, and finished with a Zelda character study. We were tasked in collecting 3 spiritual stones throughout Hyrule from Princess Zelda so we could gain access to the Master Sword and stop Ganon. We fought through a dangerous cavern, visited a fairy on top of a mountain, and were eaten by a fish. Today we're going to look at what happens when we grab the Master Sword, complete the Forest Fire Water Temple, before finishing looking at the theme of change. So there you go. Tyson, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Can't be bad. Playing Zelda, talking about Zelda. It's a good time. Really good time, so.
Absolutely. Can't beat that.
No, it's nice stuff. Really like this opening, feeling good about that. Playing Zelda. It was developed by Nintendo, sold 7.6 million copies, was released November 23rd, 1998. This game's going to take you about 27 hours to play. It really can't be that long. You can play it on the N64, 3DS remake. There's one on the GameCube as well as the Wii, maybe even Wii U. No one talks about the Wii U. We just pretend like it doesn't happen. So, just like that. Whew. These retrospectives are meant to be a little bit shorter episodes too. So it's 2 minutes in the episode and we're already talking about the level notes. So it's kind of exciting. How's Hyrule? Good. Still, day and night cycle treating you well?
Yeah, I'm very excited to pull that sword from a stone and relive the classic Disney movie, the Sword and the Stone.
That is a classic one. Don't watch it.
So, wonder where Nintendo got their inspiration for that one.
Probably from, medieval or European-based mythology. So, if you want the correct answer. I guess, are we diving right into it? Suppose so, eh?
Yeah, unless there's any side quests that we need to tip off before we...
That's an interesting point. So I'm playing through right now a minimalist run. So essentially I'm collecting the key items you find in dungeons. I'm collecting the heart pieces after bosses, but that's it. I'm not going after any of the extra bottles, right? So I'm not doing the long ranch as a child. I'm not doing the Kakariko side quests. I'm not collecting extra heart pieces. I'm not doing Skulltulas. It makes the game a little bit more challenging. Because at some points you're like, oh, how would you do this? And I don't have magic, so how do I get there? And just kind of where are the cross or the guard blocks that I can't get through? Where are those popping up? Where are the challenges? So it's I'm having a neat experience on this current playthrough.
That's interesting. Sounds like a lot of work. I'm taking the easy man's route and I'm doing all the little challenges. Takes a little bit more time, but you know what? I have lots of extra bottles. Yep. So if I ever die, I have some fairies to go with my extra heart pieces. So
Smart. I do believe in the next episode, somewhere in the outline, we are talking side quests. So we'll kind of maybe go through them kind of more in broad terms and outline the major ones you definitely should do if you haven't played Ocarina of Time or if you're looking to get back into it. But for today, we're just kind of going through the main plot for today. And I've got some doozies. I watched some videos last night. Whew, man. Whew. All right, so level play. So as we kind of left off last time, we had just acquired the Ocarina of Time and learned the Song of Time, the final key to unlocking the Master Sword. So we're on to Castletown and the Temple of Time. So after Ganon takes over, nothing really super noteworthy happens. You can find a dying guard in a back alley, which is kind of dark. Then we can head into the Temple of Time, and by playing the titular Ocarina of Time in front of the pedestal, we gain access to the Master Sword. As we pull it out, we're surrounded by a blue stream of light, but Ganon appears and reveals that his evil plan all along was to let us open this passage to the Sacred Realm for himself! What a plot twist,
Played right into his hands like a bunch of mooks.
I hate when that happens.
Yeah, it's almost like he was completely aware of us loudly discussing our plan outside of a plain glass window.
Yeah, stupid Zelda in her loud voice. She must talk like this!
I like to think she does.
Oh, shoot. All right, well.
Quiet, we need to be sneaky.
We'll be so sneaky out here. No one will ever. You're so quiet. Why don't you talk more?
So that guy, he's evil.
Yeah, so this is one of those like, I would love to say this is one of the best twists in gaming, but it really can't. I mean, there was tons of promotional art showing adult Link. I mean, literally the opening of the game is adult Link riding a horse, right? Like playing the game, you're like, I don't look the same as the guy on the thing. Like at some point you have to get older. So
yeah, and a lot of the time it's like I think the image was young Link standing playing the Ocarina of Time with adult Link behind him.
And so
it's like if that's not showing you like hint, yeah, you get to grow up in this one.
Yeah.
Which as a kid we couldn't wait to pull the sword from the stone and grow up because we were like, man, get to be old, mature, run around, badass. Not being us young dumb kids where we can't even stay at past 9 because our parents tell us to go to bed. So a little bit of I remember that when we were playing is we couldn't wait to get to Epona and be old enough.
It's kind of a metaphor it's a metaphor for life. Like you can't wait to grow up, and then once you grow up, you're like, nah, man, I wish I could be a kid again. So Link can, you can't. You know, it's a sad reality of life. And I think taking away that kind of the basic items and the skills you've almost learned as a child, it's kind of ingenious and kind of makes it feel like I always think this is the true starting point of the game. The other ones, like I think I wrapped it one day, the Child Link portion of the game, in like an hour and a half. It was like through a couple episodes of Star Trek Next Generation while I was watching it. So it's not really long. These ones take a little bit more. They're a little bit more complicated. We get to use keys now in our dungeons. But the one dead guard is kind of weird, right? It's kind of,
Yeah, and I forget where he is before this, because we actually talked to him before this.
I think he's maybe in the back alley, but in theory he's in the back alley, so Ganon, like, rides past him, like, stabs him and kills him, and then, like, rides off, and everyone's like, no, it's fine, I'll just keep playing along to my ding, 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 that stupid song that plays.
Yeah. And dancing in that same circle while that dog runs around and attacks anyone that is a small child.
Yeah, it's...
Oh, no, wait, that's a different game.
Yeah, but now we at least get to explore this dark new reality. So we awaken 7 years in the future. The Sage of Life reveals that he has kept us frozen until we can truly wield the Master Sword. But in the meantime, Ganon has used his power of the Sacred Realm to release evil into Hyrule. We must now awaken 5 other sages in 5 temples throughout the land to stop the evil king. As we go to explore the world, we meet Sheik, a young Sheikin boy who offers us guidance. We can see the devastation of Castletown, head to Kakariko Village, race the now dead Dampé to receive the hook shot.
Yeah, this is a pretty cool change. So we see Hyrule going from idiots running around dancing to ding ding ding. They're now all sorts of zombies running around. I forget what their actual technical name is, but they're zombies.
Redeads, maybe?
Redeads, yeah. So they're all over in the main area. The actual like castle is torn down and looks like it's like not torn down, but looks like it's like in smoke and fire. So yeah, like all of a sudden the this future that we couldn't wait to get ourselves into is now pretty bleak.
Yeah, it's not doing so well.
Yeah. I like kind of going to Kakariko Village after this because it's very cool to like see the change of essentially all the people from Hyrule flooding into Kakariko Village and how it's like more crowded, never been busier, but at the same time it still like feels hostile.
Yeah.
And feels like there's lots of like they feel like they don't know what to do as opposed to being that small village that nobody cared about. So
yeah, it is neat how it does change. It grows a little bit. And yeah, like that sense of dread is always there. Personally, I love the conveyance at this part of the game. It outlines exactly what you need to do in the first few moments. She sings you a song about the evil king or something, and awakening the sages and the hero of time. And he tells you, it's in a dark, deep forest and on top of a mountain and under a great lake and in the house of the dead and in the goddess of the sand. And it's right there in the little song that he shares with you right at the beginning. And it's just so nice and clean, like you don't like, I wonder what I do next. You're right. The castle town really got it hard though. Like Tyson was saying, it's smoldering, there's dead bodies, and then the rest of high school is kind of okay. Like, why is Hyrule just, it's like, oh, well, that's not too bad.
Yeah, and I think that's almost like part of the plan.
Yeah.
It's because everybody almost doesn't like Hyrule Town or Castle Town, because it's kind of like the capital, and it's kind of like just, oh yeah, they're all stuck up snobs, and they're not down to earth like us or whatever.
Yeah.
Because everybody else feels kind of more rural. The second biggest village is Kakariko Village, and it's quite small. And besides that, it's like what, Long Ranch?
Yeah.
The actual Hyrule Lake, where there's that one observatory and that one fishing hole, and that's about it.
Yeah. It is. I mean, it's very sparsely populated, and I think it's just the nature of early gaming. They couldn't render more NPCs, right? So.
Yep, but it definitely has that vibe, because like even Long Ranch is thriving, Kakariko Village is thriving, so everybody else is almost like okay with Ganon taking over, but we obviously know that this needs to be fixed. Yeah.
So now that we have our hookshot, though, we are urged to head home, and we find the forest is overtaken with monsters. So the Kokiri hide in their houses and let us know that Saria went to the temple because she heard it calling to her to stop the evil. We have to play Saria's song for Meadow to make it through the Lost Woods, kill some moblins before making it to the Sacred Grove, learning a song from Sheik, and using the hookshot to gain access to the Forest Temple.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and we get to meet our old friend, but I think it's kind of like a little bittersweet going back, because nobody recognizes you, or everybody kind of treats you as an outsider even more so now. Mm-hmm. It's like...
Yeah. I mean, this place is really messed up. I was kind of like, it's not too bad. But some of these, like, original places we visited do kind of get, like, like there's just monsters everywhere. You go to walk to the Great Deku Tree, and there's spiders. There's these giant Deku Babas that attack you. I guess it could be kind of scary and, like, tormenting for these poor Kokiri. So, like, I hope we can help. Let's talk about that afterwards. So, the Forest Temple. So, once we're inside, we have to find a key up a tree, fight some skeletons for another key, make our way past some block puzzles through a twisted hallway before fighting some more skeletons and getting the bow. With this equipped, we can defeat 2 Poe Sisters by shooting their portraits and then battling them in sword combat, untwisting the hallway to gain another key, which gives us access to the 3rd Poe Sister. There is another arrow puzzle before we get the boss key. We can now head back to the main room, fight the 4th Poe Sister. Really kind of jumped through this temple. It's not really that linear of a process, I guess. And after she is defeated, we can head downstairs and fight the boss, Phantom Ganon. His first form, he kind of rides at you through these paintings on this dark horse. You have to shoot the real one. The fake one will kind of turn at the last second, and then once the horse disappears, he will float around and shoot lasers at you, and you have to play laser tennis to stun him and deliver the final blow. After Ganon commends you for defeating his phantom form, and then we never hear from him again until the finale. He's like, oh man, you might be kind of strong, but whatever, not gonna talk to you. Peace.
I won't give you no mind. Yeah, pretty cool little temple. This one might be one of my favorite temples in the game.
Yeah.
The pose are super creative. The music is awesome. The twisting hallways is the neat puzzle.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty straightforward when you know how to solve it. But I remember as a kid being like, "Whoa, how the heck does this actually work? It's so cool." So I always thought that was really well done. The pose, for whatever reason, the pose just like there's something about them that like all the different colors. I was kind of like wondered. Like, oh, they have different elemental abilities. Like, what is this?
Yep.
So as a kid, that always got my brain going with creativity. And yeah, I think that this is a kind of complicated level, but it's not so complicated that you get super lost. And even if you forget or don't really know what to do, sometimes it's like, oh, it's the room you haven't been in yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really like this one. And then the Phantom Ganon battle is... I think really neat because like jumping out of the paintings really reminds me of Mario 64. So
it is a nice callback to that, yeah, for sure. And I mean, the Phantom Ganon fight, it's an amazing 3D recreation of the Ganon fight from A Link to the Past, right? So you have to kind of fire back laser pistols. He does the lightning zaps, and essentially they just turn that iconic 2D fight into a 3D space. I think it's done really well. It also gave them kind of the idea, probably, and the liberty to create Wii Sports Tennis, right? I mean, it pretty much plays exactly the same. We see it again in the end fight with Ganon, and it's just one of those mechanics where Revolution, like, we still use it, right? Like, I'm sure there's Zelda games, whatever the last Zelda game was, you still probably have a fight where you do this. So it's cool that it came from this one experience.
Yes, and I think that they handled it quite well, where I think playing like 3D tennis could easily be very, very hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like, look at some PlayStation games and their implementation of how they use 3D or whatever, and it's just clunky.
Yeah.
Whereas this felt like using that locked on feature kept it very set, where it almost took out the moving in 3D and having to actually like get in front of the actual like lightning ball. Like,
yeah, no, so it's done really well. I think that's probably one of the standout things. And Tyson mentioned the spiral corridors. They look neat. They don't really make sense, maybe, if you think about them, but cool mechanic nonetheless. Before we leave this area, there is a YouTuber by the name of Zeltik, Zeltik. I want to shout him out. He does some exploring of just various Zelda things. His videos on the Forest Temple and Fire Temple, awesome. They're revolutionary. He basically said, what is the Forest Temple, right? I've never really thought of the design of this level as anything more than just, it's like a weird place in the woods. It's fine. But he outlines it. The whole Sacred Meadow is a very neat design. So it's a very narrow single file passage that leads to a set of stairs, to a small platform, to another set of stairs, into an opening. And essentially it's to deter armies, in his opinion, right? So an army couldn't come in a mass and stand in their formation. They'd have to come single file, which means you could probably fight back the soldiers fairly simply. It leads you then into the temple, where there's a hidden elevator. And underneath, essentially, if you didn't know it was there, you could hide anything you want beneath it. And at the end of this long corridor, you find yourself, this is where you fight Phantom Ganon. I don't think the level was just based on its decay and its age was made by Ganon. It was just kind of secondly taken. And the thing that he points out is the platform where you fight Ganon looks an awful lot like the Chamber of Sages platform. So it's got the Triforce in the middle, it's got the three little Triforces around there. So he does propose that this might have been some type of weird sacred device to transport yourself to the sacred realm from an ancient time. So
yeah, and I mean, it's obviously has a very cathedral
feel. Yeah, anyways, so it is one of those things. I recommend checking out those videos as just supplementary to this, and you're gonna be like, all right, well played, Zeltik. You do nice work. So all right, but now that we're done in the forest, anything else to add? So sorry, do you have anything else to add to the Forest Temple before we move on? All right, cool idea. It kind of makes me almost want to go back and like replay through some of these levels and just like appreciate some of the design to see, like, can I come up with my own theories? Anyways, now Saria is released from her imprisonment. She awakens as the Forest Sage, and if we travel back in time, it should be noted that you can at this point you can now travel back to being Child Link if you return the Master Sword to the altar. I think that was an extra note because I did not include that till after the fact. It is hinted that we should go up Death Mountain because there's some dark clouds. When we travel to the Goron Village, we find it quite empty. We can stop one rolling Goron, find out that his name is our name. He is Darunia's son, and that all the Gorons are imprisoned in the Fire Temple. We can equip a fire tunic that he gives us, pull a statue, learn a new song, and we can enter the second temple.
Yeah. Nice to go back to the Gorons. They seem like we were trying to do them some good in the first one, so it seems like not too much has changed for them. But Darunia's definitely gone missing, so...
Yeah, we have to go find him. The one thing I noted, too, is I kind of like that you're Adult Link, you have to go to Kakariko Village, explore a little bit, get a hook shot. That gives you access to this area. Whereas I feel like you can just go straight to the Goron Mountain unprompted. There's kind of nothing in between. There's like no almost filler. And right to the Fire Temple. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, because... I don't know. I kind of like the filler as we kind of get the rest of the game. So every other dungeon after this comes with kind of like a mini dungeon beforehand, involves some type of time travel elements. So that's kind of my one criticism with this. Is I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, you can definitely break the sequence a little bit.
Yeah, just very straightforward. I don't know. Kind of, I guess it's like empty city. You're like, oh, it's kind of scary. But we're off to the Fire Temple. When we enter, we head to the right, see Darunia, and find a key. We can then head left, find 2 more keys. We can then travel via fire elevator, past some boulders to collect a few more keys / save some Gorons. Note, I did not save any Gorons out of their jail cells. I just opened the doors and left. And if they're too stupid to leave, well, that's on them. There is one hidden key located beneath a bombable floor. And if you find all the keys on your way up to the dungeon, you can navigate through a fire maze to the left, then to the right, find a mini bomb before getting the megaton hammer. You can now head back to the main room, save the Goron in the middle section, lower a pillar, meet Darunia, or back to the room where you met Darunia, in the entrance room. Then you can then use the megaton hammer to get the boss, and then boss time. That was I really peeled out on that Fire Temple explanation, but it's like essentially the sequence, kind of, sort of.
Yeah, it's a little this one has less, I don't know, focus to it.
Yeah,
it just feels like more like you're wandering from room to room doing things, and you're just kind of like accomplishing things. The layout of this one kind of always like kind of bugged me the wrong way, which I want to love this temple because I mean you get a cool fire tunic and it's a neat like little world, and like the there's lots of like the bad guys that you're actually fighting, it's a little bit more like actiony. And I always thought that the megaton hammer was like one of the coolest weapons as a kid, but then it's just like, you know, you go your way through it and you're just kind of like, feels like you're just ticking boxes and solving confusing puzzles. There's that one puzzle room with the rolling balls, and I remember that giving me nothing but problems as a kid, but once you kind of know where to go and that you don't actually need to spend too much time in it, I don't understand why I struggled.
Yeah, so. Like this is one of those ones, if you do it without... So I played... I haven't played classic, just like regular, I guess we'd call it, kind of plain Ocarina of Time for a while. Normally I'm playing like a randomizer or something like that. So you have to explore everything. So I kind of know like how to get to all the other nooks and crannies. It's really fast. It's a really short temple if you're playing it just like regular style. I was like, oh, that's kind of it. I guess I'm done and go back and get the master key and then I'm out. So, I mean, there's a lot more to it if you want to explore and get all the skeletas and heart pieces, right? So,
yeah. But unfortunately, it's a quick stop. Feels like I wish this one had a little bit more.
Yeah, just a little bit more substance, something. Yeah. But we're on to the boss, which is Velvegia. He plays whack-a-mole with you, and after a few swings with a hammer and sword, he'll fly around the room. You can't really damage him, and then sometimes he goes into the roof and causes a rock slide. And afterwards, Darunia is awakened as the fire stage. You can double your magic before leaving the crater. Just the dungeon, like my little side note, it's really short. They challenge your platform skills like a little bit. And if you pay, you have to like fall all the way through or like down into the floors below, which is a big jump. But like, I don't know, they don't have a really great use of 3D space in this level. Rather, it's kind of used as a punishment, and I'm just not a huge fan of that. So,
yeah, and it just feels very chopped.
Yeah,
like it feels like they had ideas for things, and then they just kind of connected the pieces.
Yeah,
and that's not how good Zelda dungeons are laid out. Good Zelda dungeons have like a forethought and a layout where it makes sense already, and like has like kind of like interesting transitions. These transitions are like, haha, you fell down that hole. Now you got to go all the way back up there. Yeah. Isn't that a pain in the butt? You're like,
it is. Yes. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Anyways, so Zeltec also has a video on this. I'm just giving him credit. So essentially, there are 2 things called spectacle rocks. So even from the original Zelda game, where the last level is located on Death Mountain, there's these 2 rocks that if you kind of look from above look like spectacles, right? Like they're kind of 2 round balls. They exist in Zelda 2, A Link to the Past are also there. And if you look at the crater, in the middle there's the warp platform that you can kind of go to when you play the Bolera of Fire. And in between them there's these 2 giant rocks. Well, if you look down from above, it's Spectacle Rock. As you go into the Fire Temple, you kind of drop down this chute, turn it 180 degrees, and head essentially underneath the rocks. If you look at the level layout from a 3D perspective, essentially the levels are in these 2 giant rocks in the crater. So there's the lava floor, and then everything on top of that, you're playing in these 2 kind of giant rocks in the crater. That blew my mind. I was like, holy smoke, that is really cool. It's a really cool image that he had out there, so I do recommend watching that video. And then just the other note was the guardian spirit of fire. The theory is Velvegia is actually a guardian spirit. So like the Jabu Jabu, like the Great Deku Tree that was corrupted by Ganon, and kind of a natural enemy of the Gorons, who probably weren't the original race that built the fire temple. They just kind of moved in because their architecture seems a little bit more derpy. Like if you look at kind of the mining excavations that happened in Goron, in Dodongo's Cavern, it's less advanced than what you see in the fire temple. So more than likely this was an ancient temple from like a past race. The Gorons just kind of moved in. They ended up beating Velvegia, and Ganon came in and kind of revived this spirit of fire, this kind of great spiritual force in the world, and turned him against the people. So it's neat stuff.
Yeah, and I always kind of liked Velvegia as a villain, because I mean, giant dragon, get use a giant hammer, smash him on the head, like that's fun. Yeah, so I kind of always wish that we would have got more details of this, of these characters, or a little bit more like cinematics or something, but limited by the time, so my imagination just had to fill in the gaps.
Yeah. Anyways, now that we're through the little part of the game, we get to move on to some of the better parts of the game. So the Zorro River Domain / Ice Cavern / Lake Hylia. So there is a hint that there's a cold breeze blowing in from Zora's River, and if you head to Zora's domain, we find it completely frozen over. So there was a couple bad guys in the forest. There was a couple guys in jail in Goron Village, and then he completely froze over the entire Zora's domain. And you're like, oh my gosh. Instead of Lord Jabu Jabu, you find some ice platforms, which grant us access to the Ice Cavern. It's pretty straightforward, and the boss is an ice wolf. After defeating him, we meet Sheik again. Okay, that's neat. He teaches us a song, and we get iron boots to sink underwater. Before heading to Lake Hylia, we should take some blue fire and either unfreeze King Zora or the shop to get a Zora's tunic so we can breathe underwater.
Yeah, I don't know what the Zoras did to Ganon, but he was not happy with them. He's like, I hate these people. Freeze the fish.
Yeah.
And it's like, you really hate the chill people, like my people that I want to hang out with. Like, man, I hate winter. You turn like the cool tropical paradise into a ice nightmare. It's like Canada.
Yeah, well, you do wonder, like, because it was so drastic, and it doesn't, like, they seem like King Zora is kind of cool with it. I almost wonder too if it's like naturally part of the seasons, if there is a little bit of freezing that takes place kind of in the world, like in Zora's domain anyways, and this is just a greater extreme to it, right? So rather than it just being, because like in my mind it's like warm and tropical all the time, if you went in there like kind of warm and humid, kind of like the inside of a swimming pool, versus now it's like this cold Arctic wasteland. Like I would think King Zora would just die, but he seems okay with it, so I wonder if it's like less nice than I'm making it out to be, you know?
Yeah, maybe they're more like amphibian, where they like, instead of, you know, how frogs and stuff survive winter by going in the, they hibernate in the mud.
Yeah.
Zoras can just hibernate in ice. So they're like, oh, who cares? You turn me into ice. I'll just go to sleep and I'll wake up when somebody thaws me out.
Yeah. Yeah, not sure. Anyways, so I kind of have a love-hate relationship with the Ice Cavern. It's pretty, and it was one of the first areas I ever actually watched being played of this game. But I just hate the blue fire so much. You know, and only having one bottle does make it a bit more challenging. You really got to think through, okay, where do I want to use this? So I guess I can't get that. I'm not doing this. But the mini dungeon, kind of nice. You know, the forest, fire temple, it's kind of what they needed. And I hope we see more of these again in the future. Wink. But onto the water temple, so.
The ice dungeon, I just laughed. Like, sorry, when you told me you were going to do a minimalist run, I was like, you poor man. Yeah. I will have all the bottles for this dungeon. It is like, it's a pretty small dungeon. It's pretty quick, but yeah, the backtracking to get that flame.
It's not bad if you want to get all the Skulltulas, and I think there's maybe another chest or something that includes something, like some heart pieces. It can be encumbersome. It's not too bad. I think I only had to backtrack once, so again, not the end. But now that we can sink and breathe underwater, we can open the door to the legendary temple. We can sink to the lowest floor, find Princess Ruto, and lower the water. From there, we should explore each of the 4 directions, enter the center tower, and raise the water to the 2nd level. From here, we can gain access to 3 keys. So I think this is where most people get kind of confused and frustrated before we raise the water to the 3rd level again. And if we have all the keys, we can head across some platforms, push a block, fight Dark Link, and get the long shot before navigating some whirlpools and reconnecting with the main dungeon. At this point, we can find one key, travel past some underwater boulders, and gain access to the boss key. And now, it's boss time. The legendary water temple. Man.
Yeah. Some people's least favorite part of this game. It's definitely up there for me. I don't like it really at all.
Okay.
I think it's kind of just clunky and slippery, and it just feels slow. Where the rest of this game kind of has like a decent fun pace to it, where like that's what I love. Like the Forest Temple feels like every room you just like solving things and accomplishing, and then in the Fire Temple it's a little bit meandering. Then this one just feels like you're just running all over the place. So I don't really like it because it just feels like you're not really accomplishing anything, and moving in the water is always a pain in the butt. So
interesting. Yeah, see, like, I kind of like the challenge, and I like trying to remember everything, and, like, remembering to go back when you get to the 2nd level and going back to, like, where you find Ruto, and there's that bombable wall where there's a key. Like, I kind of like those elements, and I never found that the menu was that slow, that switching between the iron boots, like, on and off. Like, that's people are like, oh, it takes so long. You don't have to do it that often. Like, you're in the water once, and then you lower it, then you raise it, and you go twice, 3 times, and then you should have to go back in, and then 4, like, you're only in, if you know what you're doing, like, in the water maybe 4, like, less than a dozen, like, half a dozen times, which isn't terrible, right? But I don't know, I just kind of am like, I don't mind it. It's okay.
Yeah, it could be better.
I think it's the best. I think it's the best temple of the game. Like, I mean, maybe I'll say that at some point, but like, just initially, I'm like, probably the best design of any level. Like, it's got the coolest mechanic, and like, it's built the smartest, and like, it just, everything else is like too linear, and this has like multiple choice, right? And you can make mistakes, and that should be good, right? The boss in this area is Morpha. I found a really easy strategy for this boss. When the tentacle comes out, you kind of pull the little like thing, whatever it is, into the corner. And if you can like manipulate into the corner and get out of the corner, you just literally attack it, and it tries to go away from you into the corner and just get stuck, and you win. So hooray!
And then you slash the junk out of it.
Yeah,
and that sounds way easier. I don't really hate the temple that much. I find it frustrating. I hate the boss because as a kid it was just like I'm dying and dying and dying and dying and dying. So it's nice to know that there is an easier strategy out there. So
yeah, it's not bad. So again, best level in the game. That's my argument, anyways. That's the hill I'm going to die on. The use of the 3D space to fill and empty the water is a landmark achievement in game design. I think it's such a cool design. Was it done perfectly? No. Do other temples kind of do flows of water and raising levels a little bit better? Maybe, but this is the first, and I think, again, we have to give it a little bit credit where credit is. I know some keys are hard to find, but that's kind of the point of keys. Like, if they weren't hard to find and you didn't have to backtrack and like search for them, why would the door just be unlocked, right? And then like it shows you everything if you pay attention. Oh, I'm going up. Oh, there's a wall that needs to be bombed. Maybe I should make note of that. Well, if you never go back there, well, it's your own fault, right?
Yeah. I just think that if you're going to complain about the layout too much about the water temple, you probably just shouldn't play any Zelda game.
Yeah.
Because I mean, there's lots of little confusing things where I think sometimes back to even like Link to the Past, and it's like there's some things where it's like we've just accepted because we know how to do it. We've done it 100 times, but it's not straightforward.
Yeah, like how would you figure that out? Those are things that are kind of overlooked, I think. Anyway, side note. So I mentioned a long time ago, like one of the very first podcasts, my wife stopped and she said, you were mentioning something about a water temple. I just don't understand what you're talking about. This is that moment. 5 years later, I'm finally going to get to it. I was going to figure out how much water was in the water temple and give you an equation. So here we are. We did it. So for ease of the theory's sake, let's say that each floor of the main room is about the size of an Olympic swimming pool. All right, so 660,000 gallons of water. Now that's times 3, so 3 floors, which equals 1.98 million gallons. Okay, so from as soon as it's at the top, you walk in, you see that's how much. We have 1.98 million gallons. That's a jug of milk. That's a lot of water.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so for perspective, Niagara Falls sees 757,000 gallons of water go over every second. All right, so we have 75 from the American and Bridal Veil Falls and 681,000 gallons from the Horseshoe Falls. That means that when you lower the water temple from the highest to the lowest, you see 2.6 times the amount of water magically leave this temple as compared to Niagara Falls. What a rush.
Wow, that's a lot of water.
So almost three times the amount of Niagara Falls at one time just by playing a little song. So they have a powerful drainage system in Hyrule.
Yeah. Magic is a powerful thing, apparently. Like, if you could just tap that, I'm sure you could literally just defeat Ganon with a flood.
Yeah. Now, I don't know where our next hint leaves us, but that's where we're going to stop for today. We did the kind of the three big temples. We found Princess... Oh, no, actually, never mind. I have a little something to say, apparently. So Princess Rudo is now saved and becomes a Sage of Water. And at this point, we're adults. We can do things like we can travel to Long Long Ranch. We can pay to ride a horse, play Epona's song, to meet our childhood friend, ride her for a bit, challenge Indigo for a race, who's evil, by the way, and taking over the ranch. If we beat him, we then challenge him again. And if we do, we get our horse. Finally, our horse. You know, you don't really need him. But he's in the opening movie, and it's kind of fun to ride him, and it didn't cost me an arm and a leg if I wanted to get him to get this, or it did cost you an arm and a leg as a child to get this information as a child, so.
Yeah. Do we tell that story about?
I think so. Like, we've kind of hinted at it before, so why don't you take this one?
Okay, well, we were playing Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time. And we got to an adult, and we were like, how the heck do you unlock how do you get Epona? So we actually called. There used to be a little tech support on the back of, was it the game box?
Something, like Nintendo Power hotline.
Yeah, essentially it was a Nintendo Run hotline, or 1-900 number. 900 number. So this got expensive quick. Where we called them and asked them to walk us through how to get to Epona. And I thought we were being good as kids, because we were like, we're in and out of that off like maybe 5 minutes. Yeah, that 5 minutes. Was it our nice friend down the road's parents that had to pay the phone bill for that one?
I do believe we were visiting a nice friend from the road, and yeah, when the phone bill came in, it was definitely a substantial amount. Someone got grounded. We maybe didn't see each other for a little while. So, it was a good time. That is the story of how we found out how to get to the horse. So, hence, I believe we got a strategy guide. Well, we actually got a strategy guide with our copy. So, too bad we left it at home that day. Sorry.
Yeah, really saved... I don't even know. I think it was like $100.
Yeah, something like that. It was something like, oh dear. Anyways, so now that that's done, we beat 3 of the first temples. We're going to leave kind of the last 2, and then Gannon for our next episode. Maybe even do a little bit of side questing. Just like one of our shows. Oh, that's interesting. For the next one, for today, we're just going to kind of leave it because it is kind of a nice parallel. So we have the forest, fire, water. As a child, as an adult, we've kind of done that nice poetry. And after this, you can really kind of explore. The world's just your oyster at this point. There's not a lot you can't do. So we'll all do that in a month's time. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. Now 40 minutes, that's not bad. All right. So we're going to get through our mysterious area of Hyrule. Today we're going to look at the Lakeside Laboratory. So far we've looked at places that hold magic or curses in them. Today we're going to look at something much more terrifying. A house of science. Located next to Lake Hylia, the lab is a very unassuming building. It has a very Tim Burton aesthetic on the outside and a Frankenstyle feel on the inside. On display are various sea creatures in aquariums, a shark in an underwater cage, and rumors about pocket-sized cuckoos. And what is the purpose of this man's experiments, I ask? He creates eye drops, eats frogs, experiments on chickens, and has a shark. They say he is trying to uncover the lake's many mysteries, but I think the greatest mystery resides on the shores of the lake.
He's creepy for sure, and just rubbed me the wrong way as a kid.
Yeah, it's one of those strange ones. He's kind of a good middle ground too. We've kind of, as we're moving around, we did one in the forest, and then one kind of closer to the mountain, and then I wanted to do one near the water. So it was kind of our 3 episodes mirror the game. Look at that! Look how cute I'm being. I'm being just like George Lucas. I'm rhyming. You see, it's like poetry. It rhymes.
Yes, yes. Well, let's not try to be George Lucas.
All right, I won't
Let's be
Star
Miyamoto.
Wars.
Let's be Miyamoto.
All right, I won't Star Wars our podcast then. There, it's pretty exciting. Nice. So with that kind of just wraps up that aspect. Let's look at the theme of change. It's a terrible theme. I don't know what I was thinking. So the theme of change. So change is one of the most universal aspects of any story. Change is what makes a story a story. It is how the characters adapt to conflict or interact with an environment. As Link grows and comes to terms with the obstacles in front of him, he changes. Let's look at how 3 relationships and 3 characters, Saria, Darunia, and Princess Ruto, change as the game progresses. So Saria and friendship. In theory, Saria is the second most important character in this game. Well, maybe third. We meet her when we first leave our house. She has a touching scene as we leave the forest. She gives us a song. We ask her for advice on the Zora Sapphire. We save her from the forest temple. Sheik has 8 interactions, but right behind her is our childhood friend Saria, I think with 6, maybe 7 interactions in this game. We knew her for about 10 years of our life before embarking on our quest. She is the first person we think of when we awaken 7 years in the future. And we find out that in this game, much like life, friendships never really change. If a friendship is true and pure, no amount of time can destroy it.
Yeah, it's a nice little chapter. And it's nice that they built out all the friendships in this game. Yep. And they make it so influent, or it kind of like highlight the influence of these characters and how they grow. And yeah, I always liked Saria as a kid.
Yeah.
And I think that her giving you the ocarina, like I was kind of wish that you could select it or whatever, or do little things with it. Like maybe you could talk to her or something. She'd give you hints. But yeah, it's nice that they give her and Princess Ruto and Sheik all these like little extra little bits. So you feel like you're developing some friendships along the way, and you're not just exploring the world by yourself.
Yeah, nice. How about Darunia and Brotherhood? So the Gorons are first introduced in this game and are kind of derpy by nature. They don't seem to be very strong or fierce warriors, with the exception of Darunia. He is the leader of the race and is presented as strong and noble. Offering us his hand in friendship or brotherhood after Dodongo's Cavern is one of the greatest gestures, and we don't really understand the meaning of it until we meet his son that bears our name 7 years later. Him calling you his brother in an offhand comment to the player, but we learn that it is so much more to this proud warrior. So much so that even after a 7-year absence can't drive a wedge between us. Yeah, all right. Not the best well-written paragraph, but all right.
Yeah, I like it because it shows that you really did inspire him to a point where he even names his son after you. Well, obviously, I think is a pretty big honor.
Yeah, Brotherhood, Gorons, who knew?
Yeah, and I think that even as like every time you go to the Goron Village, it's fun. Like they're very friendly, and they always try to give you almost like a hug, to a point where like I'm sure they would crush you like a bug. But they seem like those type of people that are always just having a good time, and you just want to spend like. You never really want to leave their house because they're constantly having a good time and having a party or whatever. And I feel like they appreciate you. So Link's almost like an honorary kind of Goron, and that's kind of how I've always like pictured it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, nice. And then finally about Princess Ruto and love. So a young, naive character who throws herself at us just like anyone would with a schoolyard crush. Princess Ruto plays the damsel very well in this game. She does have her own autonomy, but she can't help show off her feelings for brave Link. We are reunited 7 years later, and this crush turns more into a respect. And unlike friendship or brotherhood, love can fade. Silly crushes we have when we were younger seem like a fool's dream or regret as we get older. We can love and respect someone who you've had in the past relationships with, but it'll never quite be the same.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how there's a few girls in this game that have a crush or feelings for Link.
Oh yeah, there's like 4 of them.
No
right?
one's more vocal
5?
about it than Princess Ruto, because she just thinks that you are just the bombingest thing in the world. Yeah, I like how they introduce these things. The themes of this, like, of the world of Zelda is really about like growing up and self-reflection. Like, even when you pull the sword, you almost can't, like, but as a kid we couldn't wait to pull the sword and grow up. And then when you grow up, you almost can't wait to put the sword back so you can go back in time and relive things and fix the way things are. And I think that that's a very poignant point where it's like there's a Link in the future that's old and he can't change any of those things that happened. So now he kind of has to just deal with it in this world, and he's doing everything that he can to fix it, but he can't really go back in time, or he can go back in time and fix it, but in real life we couldn't. So it's a nice reflection on that, and I like that they interject all these other things about growing up and life, like friendship and making friends and developing like deep bonds, and even just exploring love, because that is a part of life. So I like that they're showing you the story of Link and everything that he does go through, from like his trials and tribulations in the story of the trying to defeat Ganon, but you're also seeing his life and how it progresses and all the relationships he grows and builds because of it. So it's very cool. Very, very cool.
Nice. So then in conclusion, so some things never change is a famous quote. And as we see in this game, it's true. Some bonds hold the test of time while others will fade. And at the root of the story, just like every story, is how our characters react and responds to the change that is put before them. And that is the last sentence I have written for this specific part of the podcast. So there you go. So with that ends part 3 of our Ocarina of Time retrospective. I think we have maybe 2 more parts. We're going to kind of finish up this game and then kind of do a reflection, look at the 3D versus like the remakes, randomizers, and go from there. Just that 5th one sounds very chaotic, but good times. So
yes. Well, we got big plans, and I think that it's nice to do the reflection of the forest, fire, and water temples as a kid, and then doing them as an adult. Now we can kind of explore the additional 2 temples and a lot of the time mechanics, because now that we've unlocked a large chunk of the game, so we now have an option. Because I know you can kind of, this is always the debate, is you do these, like, do it in this order, and then which one do you do first, Spirit or the Shadow? And I go with Shadow first, but that's, I think, the official route. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Got a lot to explore still, and it's gonna be a good time.
Good times. All right, cool. So with that, we'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. We're back with a numbered show. I don't know what it is. Don't know. It could be anything. I mean, maybe we're recording this like way in the past. We just don't know, so I won't ramble on that. Did we miss anything? Tyson, you want to add anything before we leave?
I think I got to say James Bond.
Say James Bond, and then we're good. All right. Well, with that, goodbye.